Hello everyone, I am very happy to present a review of one of the best sets from probably the best toy range in the entire Thomas franchise, and I am of course referring to the TOMY Thomas and Jeremy Airport set. Now, I'm not really a TOMY collector, I mainly collect Wooden Railway, but TOMY is my favorite range, and the only reason I don't collect it is that I'm too invested in Wooden Railway. It would be pretty much impossible to change now. So I don't really have many TOMY or Checkmaster stuff. But it's still my favorite range, and I always wanted at least something from TOMY, H set or something like that. And I certainly didn't expect this to be my first one. TOMY isn't really easy to come across where I live, so it's very lucky that I was able to find not only one of the best sets, but that I was also able to find it for cheap. But without any further ado, I should probably show what this set is about, and what are its positives, and what are its strengths. So, this set features a simple loop for the chains, a somewhat more complex loop for the Jeremy, the plane, and of course it features the airport itself, and then Jeremy the plane, and also Thomas the tank engine with some troublesome tracks. So let's have a look at Thomas first. This is the standard TOMY Thomas, and sometimes I hear people complain about the default Thomas being used in sets and in packs, and honestly, I don't really understand it, because variants are only cool if there's a purpose for them, but there shouldn't be a random variant made simply for the sake of there being a variant. It should always be something that works for the set. And if there is no such thing, then I am perfectly content with there being just a normal Thomas. Because that means that for people who will get their normal Thomas from a set, it means that they don't have to buy another Thomas just to have a normal Thomas. Because if they, for example, included a, pilot Thomas or something like that, that's something we would probably get nowadays, then I wouldn't have a normal TOMY Thomas, which would suck because, as I said, they're not easy to find where I live. So I'm very happy that this is from the period when the normal engines were used in sets. I think it works better. As for Thomas himself, this is the older version, which doesn't have a painted board, or the painted red stripes on the boiler, or the painted eyes. And I'm fine with it. I have a TOMY Percy who is also from this style, and I did update him, but I think I'm going to keep this Thomas in this condition for nostalgia's sake. And he is an excellent model. He looks really well, very Thomasy. He's a little bit longer than he's supposed to be, but that's just how TOMY works. They have to fit in the motor and the battery and all that. Of course, he is motorized. That's something I forgot to say. Everything is in pretty much perfect condition. So, another reason why this was a great find. One detail I really like is that they put a sticker with his backlining and his tail lamp at the back. Yeah, and they also put a sticker of his cap windows along with the whistle. That's also nice. This dome, I know this is such a random part to highlight, but if you can see it in person, this is probably the best dome of Thomas I've ever seen on any toy. It's hard to explain, but it just looks so right. And of course, one of the reasons why I love TOMY is that they added all of the little details, like these things, the water caps for his tanks, or whatever they're called, but also his lamp and even his lamp irons, which they also painted on the newer, more updated version. This set also comes with 2 tracks, and I'm very happy that they not only gave Thomas something to pull, but that they also gave him 2 of something to pull, and that those things even have some cargo. These are the standard TOMY troublesome tracks. I am a big fan of these guys. I especially like that they didn't cheap out and make them shorter, because while it would technically be more accurate, an engine pulling longer pieces of rolling stock makes it seem more powerful, and the chain more heavier. It basically gives it more aura, so I am very satisfied with how these tracks look. I also like these 2D faces. TOMY did a great job capturing those faces in the 2D style, And it looks so much better than the newer CGI faces because those are just screenshots of the actual faces instead of stylizations, if that makes sense. One of these tracks is laughing and the other appears to be angry. And there's also two pieces of cargo with paint barrels. And then two of these crates with logs. And yeah, it's nice that you can not only put something in the track, but that there's also room for two pieces of cargo. And that it's also something that not only is like, I don't know, realistic, but that it also looks good. These things, aside from the scale, would probably fit on any model railway layout, I think, because they look really good. Honestly, same with these. They put so much detail into making these logs look like individual pieces of logs. So that's great. And just one thing I want to say, there was one thing that was broken with this set, and it was these two couplings specifically. They were broken, and I had to 3D print replacement ones. And this isn't an issue with this set, but something I don't understand is why does TOMY keep using these couplings when they're very easy to break? At this point, it feels like they should really fix this because it's getting really annoying. But other than that, I am very happy with these tracks, and they were a good fit for the set. And apparently some versions of the set were released with slate tracks, the brown ones I think. And I don't hate that feature, but I prefer the troublesome tracks. And now let's have a look at Jeremy the jet plane. At first glance, he may look a little bit chunky and a little bit toy-like, but when we have a good look at him, he looks awesome. They again put so much effort into him, they gave him so much detail. Of course, things like painted windows are obvious, but they even molded these little details, these panels on his things at the back. They're not wings, I don't know what they're called. And also on his actual wings, they made these rotors black, and they also actually molded the rotors. Yeah, you can see it now. Yeah, this is just a really good model that captures Jeremy really nicely. And the face is also handled really nicely. And one thing I like to do is look at him from the behind, because, not from the behind, from the bottom, because the mouth just looks so simple from this point of view. And it is simple, but it's just very cute. I love this guy, he looks so nice. Now, another feature of this set is the main building for Sobel Airport, and again, TOMY did a great job with capturing its likeness. I haven't seen pictures of this building in a while, so I don't remember exactly how it looks, but it looks accurate. This is pretty much how it should look like. Yeah, they also even put this balcony here. That's a really nice detail. I'm glad they did that. I'm also glad that this isn't just a simple block with no actual details, just one big sticker. This is basically like many individual, well, not pieces, this is one big piece, but there's these little details, these little gaps. Each window is its own sticker and all that. It looks great. And they also added these green things next to Jeremy. And again, that is a really nice detail. They absolutely didn't have to do this, but they did. And it adds a little bit more life and variety to this, so I'm very happy with this. They also made this, I'm not sure exactly what it's supposed to be, maybe grass, maybe gravel, I don't know, can someone help me out? And it also features these stoppers for Thomas and Jeremy. How this works is very simple. If this thing is here, the engine is going to stop. Same with the plane. And what's interesting is that both are on one side instead of the plane stopper being on the plane side. The next thing to talk about is the layout, because while it seems simple, I think they actually put some thought into it and made it pretty unique and interesting. So first, let's have a look at the chain section. It's very simple, it's literally just a loop, but they could have made it much smaller. For example, they could have made it just like this. And then they could have saved some money by making way less stage checks. This set comes with, of course, 8 curves, but it also has 7 pieces of normal stage check and then also 2 short ones. And they easily could have cut that to just one if they made this loop. But they didn't. They made it so that the chain loop would circle around Jeremy's line, and that makes this set look much more interesting. And not only that, but they also made it so that this line goes under Jeremy's, check. I don't know exactly what to call this thing. And they also could have made it more complicated, for example, by including some sidings or something like that. But this set didn't need that, and basically this layout is a nice middle between what's necessary and what's more than enough. This is exactly in that sweet spot where it should be, I think. And Jeremy's line is a little bit more lackluster because it of course has this section where it's just the normal TOMY road, and then the road turns transparent blue to indicate that this is the sky. And then Jeremy can of course turn around and go back down, or you can switch the points, and then he can circle around, and then he can go back in the opposite direction or something like that. So that's really cool. But it would be nice if there was a way to make this longer, because if you want, you can buy more TOMY check, you can expand Thomas's line, but you can't really expand Jeremy's line unless you buy more copies of this set, but then you're also buying several extra Thomases and airports and several unnecessary things. It would be nice if TOMY released a check pack with just Jeremy's sky check, with some more extra hills, some more extra support, some curves, some switches, and straight roads, because there aren't any here, and I think that's a big miss. TOMY should have done something like that, because I've seen several layouts try to build longer sections using just these pieces, and it's a little bit awkward, so yeah. I don't think that this set specifically needs a bigger section for Jeremy, but TOMY should have figured out a way to give that option to expand it to people who wanted to do that. But other than that, yeah, I think this section of the check of the layout is also done very nicely and is pretty much what's necessary for this set. And that is about everything I have to say about the review, aside from the final score, but that's going to be at the end. So now I'm going to show some footage of the chain and the plane running around. But before I do that, there's just one thing I want to talk about, and it's not really this set's fault, it's just how TOMY made the road vehicles. The chains, they have a switch here at the top, but the road vehicles, they have it here at the bottom, and it's a little bit awkward because if, for example, you want to stop playing, then you need to reach down and grab the vehicle and then turn it off and then place it back down. It would be simpler if there was a switch also at the top. But I of course understand that they didn't need to redesign the system of road vehicles just for Jeremy or something like that, so it's not a big problem, just a slight annoyance. And yeah, I should also probably mention that it was pretty clever to use the road system for Jeremy. It works really well. And and before I start the chains, I'm also going to show some footage with these items. Percy and Diesel can't run, unfortunately, so they're going to be pulled along by Thomas, so don't be shocked when you see them. Okay, and now let's see the set in action. so majestic. Now all that's left is the final rating. I think I would give this set a 9 out of 10 or maybe even 9.5 out of 10 because it's pretty much perfect. It has some great details. It's a great way of including Jeremy. I especially liked how they included these out switches so that Jeremy's journey can be this or this or this. It can be pretty much anything and it makes this set a lot more fun and gives you a lot more play options. And also, I'm glad that they even included things like the chucks and the cargo loads, and even Thomas's line isn't really all that redundant in this set. So, yeah, this is a great Tomy set, and I would certainly recommend that you get it. Even if you aren't a Tomy fan, I think you would enjoy it because there's just something else about watching a nice little toy train running around in a circle, and same with the plane. And who knows, maybe you'll gain a new appreciation for Tomy because, like I said at the start, Tomy is, in my opinion, the best range for toys in Thomas. Because not only do they put so much detail into everything, but it's a great blend between toy trains that you can play with and with model trains that you can watch as they run around in a circle. And now I'm going to play with some chains a little bit more, and I thank you for watching.